What if I told you that one of the greatest moments of your life might begin with the very thing you are most afraid of? Being alone, not loneliness, not abandonment, not the pain of feeling forgotten. I am talking about the powerful moment when you look around and realize that nobody is coming to carry your dream for you. Nobody is coming to make the decision for you. Nobody is coming to wake up every morning with your goals written on their heart. Nobody is coming to fight your battles inside your own mind. And that moment, as painful as it feels, can become the beginning of your greatest transformation. Let me tell you something. There is a difference between being alone and being unable. Many people confuse the two. They think, if I don't have support, I cannot succeed. If nobody believes in me, I cannot move forward. If nobody encourages me, I cannot continue. But here's what most people never realize. The person who changes your life the most is not always the person standing beside you. Sometimes it is the person you meet when you are standing by yourself, the person inside you. The person who wakes up after disappointment. The person who gets back up after failure. The person who says, I may not have everything I want right now, but I still have everything I need to begin. Think about this for a moment. How many dreams have died because someone was waiting for permission? How many people have delayed their own greatness because they were waiting for someone else to say, you are ready? How many opportunities have passed because someone was afraid to walk into a room alone? There are people carrying incredible potential inside them, but they are standing at the doorway of their own future, waiting for someone to open it. And the truth is, sometimes you have to build your own door. Sometimes you have to become your own encouragement. Sometimes you have to become the voice that reminds you, keep going. I learned something years ago. The strongest people are not always the people who had the easiest journey. The strongest people are often the ones who discovered their own strength because life gave them moments where they had no choice but to find it. Imagine a tree growing in a crowded forest. When it is surrounded by hundreds of other trees, it may grow tall, but it is protected. It has shelter. It has support. But sometimes the strongest trees are the ones standing on the edge of a mountain, facing the wind every day, facing storms nobody sees, facing conditions that would break weaker roots. And what happens? The roots grow deeper. The tree becomes stronger. The struggle that threatened to destroy it becomes the very thing that gives it stability. Your life works the same way. The seasons when you feel alone are often the seasons when your roots are growing deeper. The moments when nobody notices your effort are often the moments when your character is being built. The nights when you are fighting battles silently are often the nights when you are becoming someone you never imagined you could become. But many people misunderstand these seasons. They look at being alone and say, something is wrong. They look at silence and say, nobody cares. They look at challenges and say, why is this happening to me? But a different person asks another question. A different person says, what is this moment trying to teach me? What strength is this situation forcing me to develop? What part of myself needs to grow before I can reach where I want to go? Because life is not only about what happens to you. Life is about what you become because of what happens to you. Have you ever noticed that the most valuable things are usually created under pressure? Diamonds are formed under intense conditions. Muscles are built through resistance. Character is developed through challenges. Confidence is created through experience. You do not become strong by avoiding every difficult moment. You become strong by discovering that difficult moments cannot stop you. Let me tell you about a person I once imagined, a young man named Daniel. Daniel had a dream of building something meaningful with his life. He had ideas, ambition, and a vision that was bigger than his current situation. But every time he talked about his dream, people around him had doubts. Be realistic. That is too difficult. Why would you try something like that? You should choose something safer. And slowly, something dangerous started happening. Daniel did not give up on his dream because he failed. He started giving up because he listened too much. He allowed other people's fears to become his own fears. He allowed other people's limitations to become his limitations. One evening, he sat alone in his room, looking at all the unfinished plans and ideas he had written down over the years. And he asked himself a question that changed everything. If nobody ever claps for me, will I still do this? That question was painful because he realized he had been working for approval instead of purpose. He wanted people to notice before he was willing to commit. He wanted recognition before he had created results. He wanted support before he had proven his seriousness. And that night, something shifted. He stopped asking, who is going to help me? And he started asking, who do I need to become? That is the question that separates ordinary thinking from extraordinary thinking. Because when you are constantly waiting for someone else, you give away your power. But when you accept responsibility for your own growth, something changes inside you. You begin to understand that your future is not built by the opinions of people watching you. Your future is built by the actions you take when nobody is watching. Think about the early mornings nobody sees. The hours of practice nobody celebrates. The failures nobody knows about. The sacrifices nobody understands. Those moments are where your future is being created. Most people only want the visible reward. They want the success story. They want the achievement. They want the recognition. But they do not want the invisible work that creates those things. They do not want the quiet mornings. They do not want the uncomfortable decisions. They do not want the discipline required when motivation disappears. But success has always been built in places where applause cannot reach. A person who learns to move forward alone develops something incredibly powerful, self-trust. And self-trust is one of the greatest forms of confidence. Because confidence is not created by people believing in you. Confidence is created when you have enough evidence from your own life that you can depend on yourself. When you promise yourself you will wake up early, and you wake up early, you build trust. When you promise yourself you will learn a skill, and you practice that skill, you build trust. When you promise yourself you will keep going through difficulty, and you keep going, you build trust. Little by little, you become someone you can rely on, and that changes everything, because the person who trusts themselves does not need constant external approval. They can walk into uncertainty. They can start before they feel ready. They can take action while others are still waiting for perfect conditions. Here's what most people never realize. Waiting for the perfect moment is often just a comfortable way of avoiding responsibility. The perfect moment rarely arrives. The perfect confidence rarely arrives. The perfect opportunity rarely arrives. Most people who accomplish something meaningful began while they were still uncertain. They began while they were afraid. They began while they had questions. They began while they were still learning. The difference was not that they had no fear. The difference was that they refused to let fear make their decisions. Fear can be a warning, but fear should never be your leader, because if fear leads your life, it will always choose the smallest path. Fear will tell you, stay where you are. Do not risk anything. Do not try something new. Do not expose yourself to failure. But growth does not happen inside a comfort zone. A seed does not become a tree while remaining a seed. Something has to break. Something has to change. Something has to push beyond what is familiar. And sometimes that process feels like being alone because you are leaving behind an old version of yourself. The old you wants comfort. The new you wants growth. The old you wants approval. The new you wants purpose. The old you wants guarantees. The new you wants possibilities. And there comes a moment in every person's life where they have to decide, Am I going to continue protecting the person I have been, or am I going to build the person I was meant to become? Because you cannot create a new future while constantly defending your old habits. You cannot become disciplined while protecting your excuses. You cannot discover your strength while avoiding every challenge. And you cannot learn what you are capable of if you never give yourself the opportunity to find out. So when life places you in a season where you feel like you are walking alone, pay attention. There may be something being built inside you that could never have been built any other way, because sometimes the absence of people around you creates the space where you finally hear yourself. And when you finally hear yourself, you begin to discover that the voice you were searching for outside of you was waiting inside you all along. And when you finally hear yourself, you begin to discover that the voice you were searching for outside of you was waiting inside you all along. The voice that says, get up. The voice that says, try again. The voice that says, you have survived things you once thought would destroy you. The voice that reminds you that your story is not finished just because this chapter is difficult. Let me tell you something. There is a powerful moment that happens when a person stops running away from their own company, because many people are uncomfortable being alone with their thoughts. They keep noise around them. They keep distractions around them. They keep conversations, entertainment, and constant activity around them because silence forces them to meet themselves. And sometimes meeting yourself is uncomfortable, because when everything becomes quiet, you begin to see the things you have been avoiding. You begin to see the dreams you postponed, the promises you broke to yourself, the habits you know you need to change, the conversations you need to have, the courage you have been delaying. But here is the beautiful thing. The same place where you discover your weaknesses is also the place where you discover your power. You cannot transform something you refuse to face. A person who never looks inside themselves can spend an entire lifetime blaming the world for problems that require personal growth. But a person who is willing to sit with themselves, reflect, learn, and improve begins to change their entire direction. Think about this for a moment. A ship in the ocean does not become stronger because the waves disappear. The ship becomes stronger because it learns how to navigate through the waves. Your life is not meant to be a journey without storms. Your life is meant to become a journey where storms no longer control you. There was a time when a small problem could destroy your entire day. A small criticism could break your confidence. A small rejection could make you question your worth. But then something happens. You go through enough. You experience enough. You learn enough. And slowly, the things that once controlled you no longer have the same power, not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. That is the hidden gift of walking alone. It teaches you emotional independence. It teaches you that your peace cannot depend on someone else's mood. Your confidence cannot depend on someone else's opinion. Your motivation cannot depend on someone else's encouragement, because if your entire foundation depends on other people, then every time they leave, change, disagree, or disappoint you, your whole world collapses. But when your foundation is built inside yourself, you become stable, you become grounded, you become difficult to destroy. Now, understand something important. Doing it alone does not mean you reject everyone. It does not mean you never ask for help. It does not mean you believe you are better than everyone else. No, real strength is not arrogance. Real strength is knowing that while others may support your journey, they cannot walk your entire journey for you. They can encourage you, they can guide you, they can inspire you. But they cannot wake up with your discipline. They cannot think your thoughts. They cannot make your decisions. They cannot create your character. That work belongs to you. And that responsibility is not a punishment. That responsibility is a gift, Because the moment you accept that your life is your responsibility, you stop waiting for rescue. You stop searching for someone to fix everything. You stop giving your power away. Imagine a person standing at the bottom of a mountain. They look upward. They see the peak. They see the distance. They see the difficult path ahead. And they say, this is too much. I cannot climb this. But then they take one step, then another, then another. And something interesting happens. The mountain does not become smaller. The journey does not become easier. But the person becomes different. The person who began the climb is not the same person who reaches higher ground. Because every step changes them. Every challenge teaches them. Every difficult moment develops a quality they did not have before. That is how life works. You are not only chasing a destination, you are becoming the person capable of reaching that destination. And sometimes the reason you have not received what you want yet is because you are still becoming who you need to become. Have you ever noticed how impatient we become with our own growth? We expect ourselves to change overnight. We expect years of bad habits to disappear in a few days. We expect confidence without experience. We expect success without preparation. But nature does not work that way. A farmer does not plant a seed today and demand a harvest tomorrow. The farmer understands seasons. The farmer understands patience. The farmer understands that growth happens beneath the surface before it becomes visible above the ground. And your life has seasons too. There are seasons where you are planting, seasons where you are learning, seasons where you are building, seasons where you are preparing. And just because you cannot see results yet does not mean nothing is happening. A seed underground looks like nothing is happening. But underneath the surface, transformation has already begun. Your discipline is growing. Your wisdom is growing. Your awareness is growing. Your strength is growing. The problem is that many people quit during the invisible stage. They stop because they cannot see immediate proof. They stop because nobody notices. They stop because they compare their beginning to someone else's finished chapter. And comparison is one of the fastest ways to destroy your own progress. Because every person has a different starting point. Every person has different challenges. Every person has a different road. Your responsibility is not to become someone else. Your responsibility is to become the strongest version of yourself. Let me ask you something. What if the hardest years of your life were actually preparing you for the greatest years of your life? What if the rejection you experienced was teaching you self-respect? What if the disappointment you faced was teaching you emotional strength? What if the loneliness you felt was teaching you independence? What if the obstacles you hated were secretly developing the qualities you will need later? Because sometimes life gives you training before it gives you opportunity. Sometimes you are being prepared before you are being promoted. Sometimes you are building your foundation before you are building your empire. And foundations are usually created underground. Nobody sees them. Nobody celebrates them. Nobody takes pictures of them. But without them, everything eventually falls. The same is true for your character. The world sees achievements, but life is built on character. The world sees results, but results are created by habits. The world sees confidence, but confidence is created by keeping promises to yourself. And those promises are often kept in private moments when nobody is there to congratulate you. That is where champions are created, not on the stage, before the stage, not in the spotlight. Before the spotlight, not when everyone believes in you, before anyone believes in you, because there is a version of you that must be built before the world can recognize you. And that version is created when you decide, I will continue even when nobody is watching. I will improve even when nobody is praising me. I will stay committed even when the excitement disappears. Because motivation is temporary. Emotions change. People change. circumstances change. But commitment is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. And the person who learns commitment learns one of life's greatest secrets. You do not need perfect conditions to create an extraordinary life. You need a clear direction, a willing heart, and the courage to take the next step. But there is another truth that many people never discuss. The hardest person you will ever have to convince is not the world. It is yourself. Because the old version of you will constantly try to remind you of your past. It will say, remember when you failed? Remember when people doubted you? Remember when you tried before and it did not work? But you have to understand something. Your past is a teacher, not a prison. Your mistakes are lessons, not labels. Your failures are experiences, not your identity. The person you were yesterday does not have to control the person you become tomorrow. And the moment you understand that, you begin to walk differently. You begin to walk differently, not because every problem disappears, not because every road becomes easy, but because something inside you has changed. You no longer walk through life asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what can I learn from this? You no longer see every obstacle as a wall. You begin seeing obstacles as training grounds. You no longer see every setback as proof that you should quit. You begin seeing setbacks as proof that you are being shaped. Let me tell you something. The person who learns to stand alone develops a strength that cannot be taken away easily. Because when you have learned how to encourage yourself, you are no longer dependent on constant approval. When you have learned how to discipline yourself, you are no longer controlled by temporary feelings. When you have learned how to believe in your own mission, you are no longer destroyed by every negative voice around you. And that is a powerful place to reach. Not a place where you need nobody. A place where you can appreciate everybody. There is a difference. A weak person says, I need people because I cannot stand without them. A strong person says, I value people, but I know who I am even when I stand by myself. That kind of strength creates freedom because now your actions come from purpose, not desperation. You are no longer chasing success because you want to prove your worth. You are building because you understand your worth. You are no longer working because you need applause. You are working because you respect your potential. You are no longer improving because you hate who you are. You are improving because you honor who you can become. Think about this for a moment. A sculptor does not look at a piece of stone and only see what it is. The sculptor sees what it could become. Then the work begins. The unnecessary pieces are removed. The rough edges are shaped. The imperfections are refined. And slowly, something hidden inside the stone is revealed. Your life is similar. Every challenge removes something that no longer belongs. Every difficult season shapes something within you. Every moment of discipline creates a stronger version of yourself. You are not being destroyed by the process. You are being created by it. But creation is not always comfortable. Growth is not always comfortable. Challenge is not always comfortable. The person you are becoming will require you to leave behind certain habits, certain mindsets, and sometimes even certain environments. And that can be painful because humans naturally hold on to what is familiar, even when familiar is limiting, even when familiar is keeping them small. A person can become so used to their old life that they fear the unknown more than they fear staying stuck. But imagine standing at the same place 10 years from now, same excuses, same fears, same dreams still waiting, same conversations with yourself, same promises broken. That thought should wake something up inside you because time does not wait for anyone. Every day, life is asking you a question. Are you becoming the person you were meant to become? Not tomorrow, not someday. Today, the greatest danger is not failure. The greatest danger is living a life where you never discover what you were capable of. Because failure teaches you. Failure strengthens you. Failure gives you experience. But regret is the pain of knowing you had more inside you and never brought it out. And that is why you must be willing to walk alone sometimes, not because the journey is meant to be lonely, but because some parts of your journey are meant to build you. There are decisions only you can make. There are sacrifices only you can choose. There are disciplines only you can practice. There are dreams only you can protect. Nobody else can do the inner work for you. Nobody else can change your mindset for you. Nobody else can build your character for you. That is your responsibility. And that responsibility is where your power lives. I want you to remember something. The world often celebrates people after they succeed, but very few people understand what those people had to become before success arrived. They see the achievement. They do not see the lonely nights. They see the confidence. They do not see the years of self-doubt they had to overcome. They see the results. They do not see the thousands of small choices that created those results. Every successful person has a hidden story. A story filled with moments where quitting would have been easier, moments where nobody understood, moments where the path was unclear, moments where they had to make a decision. Do I continue? And every time they chose to continue, they became stronger. You are built through choices, not wishes, not intentions, not dreams alone. Choices. The choice to wake up. The choice to learn. The choice to improve. The choice to forgive. The choice to take responsibility. The choice to keep moving even when the road is difficult.